We are live. Okay. Hello, everyone. Good morning from Philadelphia. So, I just wanted to do a teeny little 5-minute live on movement and different ways of organizing movement as an example of creativity. So, here we go. Lately, I have been finishing my course on movement and the fire element. And mostly it is in reference to element in traditional 5-element theory from China. I'm really excited because this is my new fascination. These are roots, right, that I believe is definitely somewhere in my DNA, because I'm from Hong Kong. But I've been here since I was 14 years old, and I don't know much about traditional Chinese medicine. I'm just learning, and the 5-element theory. And I'm so fascinated by how I think that at a certain time, when the student is ready, the teacher shows up, the old saying. And I think at this point in my life, I'm finally ready. And had it come any earlier, I wouldn't be ready for something it's really very poetic. It's very gentle, very poetic. And it's starting to make sense to me. It's quite complicated if you want to look at it at a certain level, but you can also look at it at a very basic level. There is a level where I can access it, where I can teach my 4-year-old. So I'm looking forward to figuring that out. And really, this is very new to me. I'm learning, I'm sharing with you as I am learning and applying to something that I have been loving for half of my life, which is movement and teaching movement and making movement fun and make sense and playful to people around me. So last week I woke to an emotional way of organizing this information about movement, and actually more specifically today we're going to dial into the elements, but we're going to look at it from another perspective, which is from the chakra perspective. And you don't have to believe in the chakra system or planets or any of that to benefit and get value from this, because the way I'm looking at these terms, chakra, I believe it's I wonder if it is from a Hindu root. I never really looked into it because because growing up in America, I've really just taken it for granted. When I first looked into it, when I first looked into chakras, I was a young 24-year-old, just got out of college, having fun and living in New York City, and just went to meditation centers and really got into crystals and the healing power of crystals and how they relate to chakra centers in the body. And I'm telling you, you don't have to believe in any of that. You can say, oh, that's all horse crap, and still get value from this. Because what we're really looking at is inside, and how these different words or ideas reflect what's already in you. We are so multifaceted, and it is so interesting. So it's almost like walking into a labyrinth full of mirrors, and you can see different facets of yourself. So yeah, you can 100% not believe in chakras and get value from this. So my initial learnings came from when I was living in New York and read a couple books by Anna Day Judith in my early 20s, followed by, like I said, a lifelong fascination with crystals and how different minerals and stones support corresponding energies within us. Again, they're like just mirrors, giving us opportunities to inquire into certain aspects of ourselves. In the last couple years, my focus has been captured by the work of Carolyn Mace, who organizes the center as such. So for her, there are 7 primary chakra centers. These are energetic centers in the body, and it goes from your roots all the way up to your crown. And on over top of that, there are 21 minor chakras, which is beyond the scope of this little talk. That's on the peripheral of our body. That's connected also to the 7 primary chakras. And the way Carolyn Mace has it organized is the first 3 chakras at the bottom are more a literal interpretation of seeing life, not figuratively, but like literally, not seeing life as metaphor, but seeing life as things that they are. They are called the personal chakras, according to Mace, and the interpersonal chakras, like the 4th and the 5th. Right, this is the heart, is the 4th, and that's kind of like the chamber between the top chakras and the bottom chakras. The heart just like right here in the middle, right? It starts to see 4th and 5th, the throat chakra. That's where you start to see interconnectedness. And we're going to move to movement soon. And the 6th and 7th chakra is how you see symbolic and archetypal interpretation of life, and which is the 6th is right here, is the 3rd eye, and the 7th is the crown. So it gets even more fun. In advanced chakras, Donna Eden shares an interesting way of exploring chakras in a Celtic weave. So that's a different way of organizing the same information. And she talks about how to explore how they might talk to each other, which is a lot of fun to do that inquiry. Let me give an example before I keep moving on. For example, the root chakra at the bottom, the first chakra, is about survival, and that's its job. If there was like a big company and everybody had different name tags, the job of the root chakra is to ensure safety and survival and staying grounded. Let's say, let's have that converse with the 5th chakra, which is about speaking your truth. And it's right here at the thyroid. It's about your voice. So what would the 5th chakra say to the 1st chakra? This is all like just imagination exercises. Well, the 5th chakra could say to the 1st chakra, just say what you gotta say. Stop worrying if you are going to be kicked out of the tribe. Stop worrying about negation acknowledged. Stop worrying about losing your sense of belonging, losing the ground from under you because you need to say something that is different from what your tribe might believe in. It's all right. And the 1st chakra might say to the 5th chakra, trying to give an example of an inspiring way. The very easy one for me is just like, keep your mouth shut, don't say anything. The 1st chakra might say to the 5th chakra when it's blocked, hey man, say what you gotta say, and the people that resonate with you You can create a new tribe and form new connections. So that's an example of from Donna Eden how the chakras can talk to each other. So in her here's another way of organizing chakras. In her new book Unblocked, Margaret Lynch describes the first 4 chakras as the 4 empowerment centers for life. The root, the sacral, which is your womb chakra, where your creativity and sexuality and intimacy resides. Your solar plexus, which is your personal power, your goals, your discipline, your leadership qualities, your core values that drive you, put into action. That's your solar plexus. And your heart chakra, where you find interconnectedness with nature, with your environment, people around you. So I think it is wonderful how these different ways of viewing chakras reflects the creativity. This is where I segue into the creativity part. The creativity of integrating and organizing information. Oftentimes, I have looked at creativity as something that's totally outside my wheelhouse. As much as I see movement as an art, I teach Pilates, which is a method that is essentially I'm practicing a method that is Joe Pilates' creation. My artistic part is looking for lines of alignment with my trained eyes, and that I understand. I have honed that from my career and from being with clients and learning from teachers, and that I do consider that an art because it's something that had to be developed over a long period of time. But still, I cannot honestly accept that as an artistic endeavor. To me, art has something to do with art that you see in a museum setting, or people that write best-selling fiction. Neither even comes close to resonating with myself. I could hardly sketch a decent-looking triangle as much as I love making charts. It's a mess. It's non-publishable. So in writing this course about movement and the fire element, I was able to recognize that my creativity in art lies in organizing information, which I have been doing forever, in a new way that makes sense to myself and to the people around me. I think a lot of teachers can resonate with, especially teachers for young children, can resonate with the importance of being able to take really dense, packed organization and piecemeal that to make it palatable and digestible to your students. And I propose that is your art. It is your creation. It is your art. So this inquiry that surfaced encouraged me to explore chakras and movement in the way I understand, the way the way I would interpret things first is emotionally. So the root chakra, it's about groundedness and security and safety. And there's a lot more to that. Let's see. I have a little guide here from Anna Dea Judith. So the root chakra, it's about survival issues. How do you move when you long to feel grounded? A couple archetypes for the root chakra could be a functional one would be the Earth Mother. How do you include everyone in your space? It might be a lot of round movements, perhaps. The shapes. Think about the shape of it, right? Think about, and this is, I really want to show you this. This is Rudolf Laban's space theory about movement. And it's really awesome to inform Okay, how do you move as a mom and an earth mother, as somebody that holds space for other people? So we look at 5 elements, right? And here we can look at the first thing that comes to mind is the shape. I see a round shape as opposed to like a pointy shape. And is it a free, the energy, the flow of it? Is it free or is it bound? So on the dysfunctional archetype of the root chakra, feeling like a victim, it might be a very bound shape. And is it fast or is it slow? Right? Looking at the time quality of it. Perhaps, and this is all personal, perhaps it would be, I would think, a victim archetype would be fast, running away, hiding, but not hesitating to do so. It's like very reactive. And an Earth Mother would be like chill and slow. So these are just suggestions to offer you. The sacral chakra. How do you move when you revel in creativity? How do you move when you nurture your loved ones? How do you move when you behave intimately? So the functional archetype of the sacral chakra could be a sovereign, could be a queen or a king, and somebody that looks at possibilities and seeing the glass half full rather than a martyr who's asking, why is it always me? Poor me. So again, we can look at the Rudolph Levant's elements of movement qualities. Is it large? When you're sovereign, when you're a king, you're a queen. I just see a cape behind me and a big crown. So for me, it's very large. My space is expanded. Is it heavy? Is it light? What if you feel like? For me, it's a heavy crown, but it's a light load. And then for a martyr, I feel heavy right away. So how do you move heavily? So again, chakra number 2 is sacral chakra, is about feelings, sexuality, longing, and creativity, intimacy. And let's move on to the 3rd chakra, which is the solar plexus. So the a dysfunctional archetype of that could be a servant. Functional one could be a warrior, and also a servant warrior or a servant leader. How do you move when you stand in the full glory of your power? Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it round? Is it pointed? Is it free? Is it bound? How do you move when you are leading other people? What are some of your core values that are housed in the center, such as kindness, justice, reverence, honesty, integrity? For me, it is excellence and kindness, and always trying to find the balance between that. How does your core values show up in movement? Moving on to the heart. The heart, it's about relationships, your relationship with your environment around you, whether it's nature or people, animals. How does love and connection show up in your movement? And remember, the hands and the arms are all an extension of the heart. How do you dance with, for me, it's, for a long time, it's my Pilates apparatus. There are times when I feel like it's like a barn dancing because of the springs. It allows me to go into shapes that I otherwise couldn't without support. The springs offer the body support so that we can suspend in space. Like a lot of times, the way I look at the Pilates method, it's like you're in the movie The Matrix and you're suspended in space and you could go into a shape where we can work with the organization of your spine and your appendages in a way that you otherwise couldn't because of gravity, because of the pull of gravity. So we can learn to dynamically organize your body and teach it how to organize when it doesn't have the springs around you. So a lot of times I feel like I'm dancing with the springs. And then, yeah, with the new practice with the mace, there are times when I also feel like I'm in a room with just my mace and my hands, my mace, and it's just us, and we are intimately dancing with each other. So, how does love and connection show up in your movement? And how can you take advantage or leverage that safe space when you are just moving in your practice? Hone those feelings, get comfortable with them, and then perhaps try them out for size in real life in your relationships. And now we moved to the throat chakra, which is about conversation, your thyroid, your voice, internal chatter, explaining yourself, planning what to say, having something that you want to say. And this is a strong chakra for people in the teaching profession, whether you know it or not. Or again, if you don't believe in chakras as a thing, look at it as a reflection of yourself, qualities within yourself. So, how does speaking your truth and standing up for yourself? In my case, I call it the mama bear syndrome. I find myself speaking up and finding my power when I see injustice done to other people or to myself. And my timid self, my third chakra, blows up, rises to the occasion, which otherwise I usually just keep to myself a lot as an introvert most of the time. Try not to define myself by the Myers-Briggs too. How does that look like in movement when you are standing up and speaking your truth? How does your shoulder look like? Are you hunched up? Are you not sure? Or keep letting your shoulders relax and hang like a hanger? A really nice imagery that that I got from Eric Franklin, who's a movement educator, is a hanger right here. And this hanger represents your shoulder, and your arms just dangle and hang, and your neck is long. So, shoulders, what does responsibility feel to you? How do you respond in life? And how does that show up in your movement? Let's say, when you lift your arm across this way. I was caught by my teacher last month that before my hand lifted, that I went into this. So that tells me my body is informing me about some feelings I have about lifting my arm up and taking up that space. I shirked and I wasn't sure. And we took a few reps to really just let this relax and let the movement be led by the finger, taking up space, and then that going into, and then let that translate down into my lat and my side body, and just go into a lateral bend rather than going like this. So our body and how we move, it's a lot of information that we can leverage to understand how we feel inside and and explore if that might have something to do with the throat chakra. And again, if you don't believe in the throat chakra, explore how that might have something to do with how you feel about expressing your truth and your voice, or in this case, taking up space. Now, coming to the third eye, Oh, and also for the throat chakra, a functional archetype could be a communicator, a PR person, somebody on the radio, somebody on the news, somebody that speaks, somebody that speaks spokesperson for an organization. And the dysfunctional could be a masked self, hiding behind an identity. The third eye is the sixth, and we're coming to the seventh, and that is it for the primary chakras. So the sixth chakra has to do with fantasy, daydreaming, imagining, remembering, being at a present time. The third eye, the pineal gland, about seeing things as they are, seeing the truth of things. When you are inspired to truth, what does that energy feel like? What does time feel like? What does it feel like when time is irrelevant? Do you speed up? Do you slow down? Do you change directions? Or do you embrace stillness? So a functional archetype of that, it says here is, what did I write down? The psychic, a better word for that, because there's some negative connotations about psychics out there. It's a little too woo, perhaps, for some people. So intuition, and energetic intuitive. Really have to dial in. What really hones that skill is meditation and listening, and using your subtle sense of sight, subtle sense of seeing metaphors, subtle sense of sound, subtle sense of smell. For example, a subtle sense would be, let's say there's food in front of you. Well, that's a physical sense of smell you can use to get the information as a sensory information. What's a subtle sense of smell? You walk into a situation and you think to yourself, this doesn't smell right. That's what I mean by the subtle. How do you smell life? How do you hear life? How do you see life? How do you taste life? These are subtle senses. So using your subtle senses, exploring your subtle senses, meditation, calming, finding stillness, embracing action, which is the third chakra, not activity, which is staying busy. That's a good practice to strengthen your third eye chakra, or get more information for yourself about yourself in that area. And the last one, the seventh chakra, the crown chakra. How do you feel most connected to the divine through movement? What kind of movement resonates with a prayerful quality? For me, I don't really have a movement per se, except for maybe long reaches and anything that has to do with reach. Perhaps just a lengthened spine alignment cue. Lift your crown up. Pretend that when you're moving that you are held by a puppet string. That's a big one for Pilates teachers. And literally pull your hair and see how that feels, and then drop your body. Are you rooted to heaven and earth? So that is my little talk about creativity, using the chakras as just as a spine, as an avenue, as a few lenses to help us explore movement and creativity and meaning and archetypes. And thank you so much for listening, if you're still here. And I hope that you will find value in creating your movement practice, integrating these elements into your movement practice. Thank you. See you later. Bye-bye.